So here is the list of homework exercises from Chapter 4. We are going to work through a whole bunch of them together, one at a time. So this is the first video in a series of videos, one for each exercise through which we are going to work together. I'm going to start with 4.2. If it turns out that there are exercises that are troubling to you in some way, and it's an exercise that, or there are multiple exercises that I didn't cover, or I did cover but did not address your question, please let me know. So next, let's take a look at 4.2 in our textbook. As always, don't forget to read the instructions, including the any instructions that are written in advance of a complete exercise set. So for example, look at the italics. In this chapter, you will often be using Boole to construct truth tables. Although Boole has the capability of building and filling in reference columns for you, do not use this feature. Right? So basically, as you know, there are times when it's very helpful to have Boole fill in the reference columns, but the Grade Grinder program is set up to know whether or not you have done it yourself. So if you turn in an exercise that includes reference columns, you had Boole fill in, Grade Grinder will yell at you, something like that. Okay, so now let's look at 4.2. Assume that A, B, and C are atomic sentences. Use Boole to construct truth tables for each of the following sentences, and based on your truth tables, say which are tautologies. Name your tables, table 4.2.x, where x is the number of the sentence. Okay, so let's go ahead and go into Boole. What I'll do is I'll keep the reference to this page visible while we're working in Boole, so we don't forget which exercise we're on and what sentence we're supposed to be constructing in Boole, and for which we're supposed to be completing a truth table. Okay, so we have Boole open, and you can see on the far right side of the screen exercise 4.2, and you can see each of the numbers within that set. So the first exercise has two atomic sentences, A and B. So we're going to create two reference columns, and we know that with two atomic sentences, we will have a total of 4 rows. Each of the columns lays out as follows. The first sentence gets half true, half false, and the second sentence alternates. Now we'll type in our sentence. We've got parentheses A, capital A, and B, close parenthesis, disjunction, open paren, negation, A, disjunction, negation, B, close parenthesis. We know that the main connective is not going to be within a parenthetical, so that leaves our disjunction as the main connective. On the left side of the disjunction, we have a conjunction, and then on the right side of the disjunction, we have 3 connectives. Notice when we've got our cursor in the column under the main connective for the sentence, our reference columns are the conjunction on the left and then the disjunction on the right. That tells us that the disjunction on the right is the main connective on the right side of the disjunction that serves as the main connective for the entire sentence. So that means that we need to determine the values of negation A, negation B first. So I'm already here. Let me go ahead and determine those values. So we're negating the atomic sentence B values. So false, true. Negation A values are going to be false, false, true, true. And the disjunction turns out to be false, true, true, true. And now I'm moving over to the conjunction, true, false, false, false. And then finally the disjunction, true, 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 true. Now, remember, if you want, you can verify that you have constructed and correctly completed your truth table, and we get 2 check marks. Now we go on to the assessment, and the question is this sentence a tautology? In other words, is it the case that in the column under the main connective, the sentence is always true? That is it the case that on each row of the truth table, in the column under the main connective, we have values t, and the answer is yes. So our assessment is that this sentence is a tautology. If you want to assess truth table possibility, you can, but I remember that's not required for this exercise. The sentence, by virtue of the fact that it is a tautology, it certainly is truth table possible, which is to say it's true in at least one row of the truth table. We click OK, and we verify the assessment. Now, if you did not click on the TT possible evaluation or assessment, you won't get any error message, right? You can still click the verify assess, and you'll be in good shape. So that is exercise number 1. Now what I'm going to do for number 2 is leave everything the same except eliminate and replace one connective and another connective respectively on the right side of the disjunction. So notice that sentence 2 says, once again, A conjunction B or, and then we have a difference here from the sentence above. We have a conjunction, and then we have eliminated a negation. So then what I'll do is I'll just fill out the values accordingly. So I'm going to eliminate the values under the main connective as well as under the negation in front of A. I'll eliminate the negation in front of A, and then I'll also change out the disjunction, the subconnective disjunction, for a conjunction. And then I'll have to proceed accordingly with the values. So the negation in front of the B has the same values as the first exercise. And I hope it goes without saying we've just got 2 atomic sentences, so no change in the number of rows. So we've got conjunction, which means that we have the following values: false, true, false, false. And then on the disjunction side, we have true, true, false, false. And as you can see, because we have 2 values that are false rather than true, the sentence is not a tautology. Let's go ahead back into the assessment, change from is to is not. If you want to leave the assessment for truth table possible, you certainly can, because the sentence is contingently true. It's true on at least one row. And then we verify the assessment and we see that we're correct. Now don't forget, as you're working, to save each file, each Boole truth table accordingly. So the first exercise we did should be table 4.2.1. The second exercise we just completed that's still up on Boole is table 4.2.2, and so forth. Now take a look at exercise 3 and exercise 4. Notice that we have 3 atomic sentences. So I'm going to go ahead and delete the reference columns and the original and the sentence that we constructed. And let's start over. So we have A, B, and C. Don't forget the formula for determining the number of rows in a truth table. the formula is R, or number of rows, or L, number of lines, of a truth table is 2 to the power of the number of atomic sentences. So that gives us 8 rows. Remember, the layout's always the same. The first sentence on the left, which is the first sentence of the compound sentence for which you're constructing a truth table, takes half true, half false. The second sentence gets half of the first half set of values as true, false, true, false. So the pairs of T's and F's. So the second sentence takes half of the first sentence's set of values and divides that half into pairs, in this case, because we have 8 rows total, into pairs of T's and F's. So half true, half false, half true, half false. And then no matter how many sentences we have in our reference columns, the last sentence always alternates true, false, true, false, true, false, true, false. So now we're in a position to construct sentence number 3 from exercise 4.2. And here's what we get. Negation, parenthesis, A, conjunction, B, close parenthesis, or C. And I'm going to put some spaces here, which I didn't do, just so that it's easier to see what we've got. Okay, so we know that our main connective is not going to be in the parenthetical, so it's not the conjunction. The question is it the negation or the disjunction? We answer that question by asking about the scope of the connective. The scope of the negation is restricted to the parenthetical. We're saying here not both. On the other hand, the disjunction applies both to the negation sentence and to the atomic sentence C, so the disjunction is the main connective. And we can see that when we click in the column under disjunction, because we're told by Boole that we refer to the values in the negation column and values in the atomic sentence C column. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to start with the conjunction, build out to the negation, and then finally to our disjunction. We already know our definitions for conjunction, so let's go ahead and chug on through. True, true, false, 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 false. Negation, false, false, true, 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 true. And then finally disjunction is going to be true, false, true, 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 true. We can see that there is one row on which the disjunction is false, which means the sentence is not a tautology. It is, however, truth table possible, right? It's true in at least one row of the truth table. Now, I'm not going to go into the assessment because we've got the assessment we want left over from the last exercise we completed. So let's verify, and we're correct. Lastly, let's look at exercise 4, which asserts either A or B, or it's neither A nor B and C. Since we already have our 3 atomic sentences laid out, we're just going to leave them, leave the reference columns. We don't need to do anything there. We do, however, need to build a new sentence. Just going to make it easier by, rather than going through and deleting T's and F's and all that, just build a brand new sentence. So we have A, disjunction, B, or negation, A, disjunction, parenthesis B, conjunction C, and two parentheses to close things out. Oh, and I'm missing my disjunction. All right. So the main connective is the disjunction. Let's start with the disjunction on the subconnective on the left of the main connective. It's a less complicated sentence to deal with. So we've got true, 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 false, false. Now on the right side of the disjunction that is the main connective, right, we see that the negation is going to be compared with the disjunction on the left side of the main connective by way of the definitions for disjunction. So first we need to deal with our subconnectives on the right side of the main disjunction. So we're going to deal with the conjunction first, then the subdisjunction, then the negation. So we've got true, false, 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 true, false, 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 true, 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 false, 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 and then lastly, false, 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 true, true, true. Now we're in a position to determine the values of the main connective. So remember, a disjunction needs at least one value of t or one truth value of true in order for the disjunction to be true. So we get t's all the way down. That tells us then that the sentence is a tautology, right? We've got t's on every row of the truth table in the column under the main connective. Let's go ahead and change our evaluation to say that the sentence is a tautology, and we've got a correct verification. Okay, I hope that working through 4.2 has helped you solidify your understanding of what it is for a sentence to be a tautology, and then also a little bit of the review that we did as we were setting up our truth table and so forth helps you to confirm that you understand what it is you're doing when you construct a truth table, how many rows of a truth table you need, how you determine your main connective, and then also logistical things like saving your files. Okay, we're going to move on to another exercise in the homework set from 4.2, so stay tuned.